In all likelihood, 1940 is going to be the year of the Second Weltkrieg. So it is a good moment in time to take stock and see where everyone's standing in the world. The major opponents obviously are going to be the Third International, consisting currently mostly of Great Britain, France, Norway, so the Mexican states, some Central American states, and potentially the syndicalists in North America going to join once they have squashed the remaining Pacific states over there, as well as the Commune in India might join them as well. Facing them, the Moscow Accord on the other side and the Reichspakt in the middle. Now, Germany's Reichspakt is a world-spanning empire, but it is relatively well positioned at this point due to all the work we've done in the past years and all the civil wars and smaller conflicts we've fought. Sweden has joined, so has Ireland, and more importantly, Middle Africa, and is now connected to the Ottoman Empire, which has joined the Reichspakt as well. So everyone except for some of the central states are back. The gang is back together again. The Donau-Adria-Bund in southern Europe is still somewhat of an unknown in terms of which side they're going to be taking. But so far, hopefully, Italy will remember the blood that German soldiers have shed for their liberty. The Entente, what remains of it, Canada, Spain, some parts of Central Africa and South Africa, as well as in the South Pacific, and not to be forgotten, the Empire of Japan, which is currently fighting a somewhat losing fight against China after they have once more landed some naval invasions, but all in all, and seem to have retaken Port Arthur, but all in all, these are going to be the opponents. So what does it mean for Germany? Well, the German Empire, for starters, has to fight France, obviously, on the Western Front. So the Western Front has been relatively well fortified, and we have the Heeresgruppe West under von Hammerstein-Equord, and the soldiers under his army reforms have dug in substantially. So we do have 54% entrenchment here. We've got minefields laid. We've got artillery positioned on high ground with pre-designated areas. We do have the Kaiser Wilhelm railway gun, as well as the Kaiser Friedrich railway gun in the north for large caliber support against French fortifications and assembly areas. We do have the Western Front Air Group, which is the first Luftflotte, consisting of 3 scout groups, as well as 7 fighter groups, one naval bomber group, 2 heavy fighter, and 4 bomber groups. For mid-range bomber groups, we're still producing more planes, but it's a relatively small air fleet. All in all, not much more than 1,000, close to 1,300 planes. But they should be experienced, most of them at least, somewhat experienced, and should be qualitatively relatively high. So that's the Western Front. In the East, things don't look quite as well. We're still building up fortifications along the line in the east, all the way from Ukraine up to Narva and Tallinn in the north. We have soldiers stationed along the lines, but the lines are relatively thin, depending on how much weight the Russian Empire is going to throw at us. In the east, we are most certainly going to be defending for the beginning. We can fall back to the Kiev-Kherson line if we need to, and that is not fortified, but at least it is behind a major river crossing, so things would be a little bit harder. In the north is probably the biggest threat here that Russian troops would start hitting Königsberg. We have some operational depth in the south if Ukraine gets pushed back, but the north, breaking through the Lithuanian kingdom, would be a direct threat to Königsberg. So we definitely need more troops on the eastern flank. In the air, we don't have much. We have the second Luftflotte, currently consisting of two Jagdgeschwader and one Nachtjagdgeschwader, so 2 fighter groups and 1 night fighter group, as well as 2 scout groups. These planes at this point are not going to be able to do an awful lot just now, and it's just the beginning of it. In the north, we have Sweden. Sweden against Finland is going to have to fend for itself here because there's really no supply anywhere there. But we do have the third group, the Heeresgruppe Nord, under Follett Bockelberg, which is currently mostly consisting of specialized mountain divisions, which are positioned against Oslo. We don't have much of an air force in the north. Currently, just a group of Aufklärungsplanes, which do need to go to Norway. We can probably send them over here. Oh, they're still deploying. Okay, so they will deploy. They have the range. They can cover southern Norway, and that should give us some more information about what kind of troops we're facing here. Obviously, potentially British troops here as well, because the support of the Brits is relatively clear. Denmark's alignment is up in the air, and that poses given Denmark's strategic situation, poses somewhat of a difficulty for us. The Low Countries are on our side, but Denmark might not be. We will see after the incidents in the past. One of the bigger problems is the obvious potential of a British naval invasion and the somewhat lower threat of a naval invasion through the Baltics from Russia and from Finland. In that regard, we have the High Seas Fleet ready, not as much as it can be. It isn't ready, but as much as it can be. We've got the Hochseeflotte itself under Erich Raeder, consisting of the first Schlachtgeschwader, which is mostly at this point done with refitting. I think there's not much left. So the first Schlachtgeschwader, consisting of six old Weltkrieg battleships, including the SMS Westfalen, which is the pride of the fleet at this point, which needs to change. These ships are this is the strike group tasked with keeping the Baltic and the North Sea coast, the German North Sea coast, clear of British invasions. We have the Ostafrika Geschwader under Karls. This consists of mostly old Weltkrieg cruisers, not refitted or anything, so they will just be raiding, a potential raiding fleet in the Indian Ocean against any kind of trade routes or similar between whoever manages to import something from someone. We have the Unterseebootflotte under Karl Dönitz, which is currently stationed all the way over in Ireland in Calway, and these ships are ready to take on the North Atlantic route for any potential trade between the syndicalists and their American brethren. We have the Aufklärungsgeschwader under Admiral von Nordeck. They are mostly they've been split up into 4 groups, and they will be tasked with finding enemy shipping in the Baltic and in the North Sea for now, for the strike force to take on. And we have the Geleitflotte under Admiral Marschall, which is securing the trade route around the Cape of Good Hope at this point towards our eastern colonies, simply because the Suez Canal has been partially demolished by syndicalist sympathizers and other terrorists. So now that the Ottomans have control over it, hopefully things will go better. But we do have potentially at least a land route from Middle Africa through the Ottoman Empire and neutral to friendly states in southern Europe. So that means if our imports from German East Asia are hindered and the sea routes are hindered, then it's not as bad and we can take care of things. All right, last thing, we're probably going to have to start giving some awards to our admirals. Erich Raeder has, how much we need? 15 normally, yes. So he's going to get the Big Guns Expert for a 15% capital ship attack, obviously. and he can get more, but I don't have the command power, so we'll go through the admirals as we go. And the last volunteer group that we currently have are the princely volunteers over here. Now, they are at this point purely defensive, and we've sent them over here to deal with the French Republican troops here. So let's see that we can retake the port of Goa and destroy 4 French divisions in the meantime. They can make themselves useful. We do have Henschel. Henschel has an additional point. We're not yet at 6 anywhere, so we can get 5% breakthrough and speed, or 5% armor, or 5% reliability. I'm thinking breakthrough and speed is a good one. We're going to have to look at our tank designs at some point and get everything upgraded. I'm not going to do that for every single one because I really need the army experience for doctrinal purposes at this stage. We still need to put some spirits in. So given that things are going to happen now, we're still going through the refit, so we'll leave the refit yards there, and we can see, I think, bad weather. Can go for brave commanders, decisive battle, or night fighting is not a bad one, and bad weather is not a bad one as well. 50 naval XP is relatively big, so I'll see what we put there. How about in the air? I said we were either going to get veteran air instructors or centralized control. I think veteran air instructors is not a bad one because we are going for quality over quantity. So having experienced air wings is going to give us a massive boost here. So I'm going to get the veteran air instructors, so we have that sorted. And yes, we are going to need to go through the doctrines relatively quickly. We also have the special forces doctrines that we need to take, and we could either go. I think the mountain troops are going to be the ones we're going to be using more. So that's probably something that something of a direction that we're going to take anyway. Operations is in progress until May to infiltrate the French army. And do we have enough in the Russian region that we can start another operation here potentially? So we don't. How's our intelligence about the Russian Empire? Yeah, we could do with some more army intelligence. We know a fair bit about their navy, but it's not much of a navy. So yeah, that might not be a terrible idea. Let's see if we can get another operation going in Russia. Infiltrate the army. And we're obviously going to send, I think, Giskus, who's stationed in Russia currently. Giskus and Schmidt are stationed in Russia. And the others are in France. So Giskus and Schmidt are going to take that mission on, infiltrate the Russian army. Giskus and Joseph Schmidt. Prepare that. So get them some diplomatic passports, bribe somebody to let them in, and then get us support. And once we have somebody on the ground who is going to leak information to us, then a submarine will pick them up and get the agents back. So let's get that going. Okay. And that brings us to the only fighting position. Now, I don't know exactly when the war is going to start, but we're obviously we are as ready as we potentially are. We're uniting the country behind us, and from here on out, it's really just down to working down the remaining refit line here, and getting the production up and running. We're still some military factories short. But we are building significant numbers of military factories, plus potentially more fortifications in the east, just to get that all done. All right, so these troops need to okay, many things happen. These troops need to get organized for the assault. But what's going on? First of all, the Port Said Straits Convention. A flurry of diplomats in all sorts of colors and attire could be seen in the city of Port Said in the last few weeks as negotiations concerning the future of the Suez Canal were in full swing. Although it was long believed that a compromise was going to be found and the Sublime Ports was going to relinquish its direct control over the canal, a last-minute arrangement was ratified by the Foreign Office in Constantinople and affirmed direct Turkish control over the canal. Despite this harsh tone, however, the Turkish Empire conceded to the free passage of warships in times of peace and all civilian traffic during both war and peace. Although a great victory for the Sublime Port, the canal still remains out of operation as debris and sabotage actions caused by the war have left it unusable to most modern shipping. Only through a combined international effort will the canal reopen soon. Okay. So let us drink to that, and that sounds like we should have an option somewhere to fix the canal. Not the Mittelland Canal. I don't see any. Nothing I can see. No. Okay, so maybe that'll still come up. Next up, we have Georgia requesting to join the Reichspakt. During the First Weltkrieg, we helped secure Georgia as an ally of the Caucasus. Their government has remained friendly to ours since the independence, and now, with international order under threat, they have requested to join our alliance. I am completely in favor of that, because that means yet another security belt against the Russian aggression in the south. It does mean, however, a longer front potentially. Whereas if Georgia was to remain neutral, we only had to defend northern Azerbaijan. We might have to commit more troops. But getting Georgia on our side is good. And welcome to the Reichspakt. And the White Ruthenian government is again requesting more support. I'm in favor of that. Reichspakt has expanded north. People are picking their sides. And we can get back to India, which is where the only combat at the moment is happening. It looks like we have retaken Goa, but at the same time, the French troops are still in the area, but it appears that they are being given free passage, probably to. They might have surrendered peacefully, and they've been given free passage to return to whatever positions they were holding. Now, I think we may have the east is relatively heavily positioned here, but we might potentially have an option to break north if we want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to run some combat operations here and see if we can either launch a counterattack and encircle and destroy some of the troops here. That's probably the best option rather than gaining ground. The best option would be to try and expand the lines a bit here. Where's our supply situation in the area? That should work, and we obviously have to protect Hyderabad. We could try to push north here and expand the lines. Take the supply position and push towards Ahmedabad. Or we could try to push east, which is not favorable terrain, and we would have to try and get across the river line here. And there are definitely more troops concentrated in the east, however. So I'm not sure if we have a chance of encircling and destroying troops here without major German losses. It might be better to just exploit try to exploit in the north here. So let's see if we can manage to cross the river and to launch an offensive to just to expand the territory in the north. Let's get the troops there. Everybody back on the trains. The French have wisely decided not to maintain their territory there. All right, apologies. That was a misclick from me. I was just trying to move the screens away. Apparently, the Ottoman Empire has now officially joined us. And for some reason, we appear to have lost the access to the resources to Azerbaijan. I tried to find the decision. I'm not sure if I misread that, but my understanding was that Germany would get the access to the Azerbaijani oil, rather than just Azerbaijan retaining it, which is unfortunate. Because the whole reason for the operation was to secure the supply of oil to Germany from Azerbaijan. So right now, we have lost access to Azerbaijani oil reserves, which is in peacetime not a problem because I've got 1 million tons of fuel laying around, but that has severely hampered our fuel gain. Now, this is not quite what I was expecting to happen, but it only means that we will need to trade for oil. So. We can obviously trade with Azerbaijan now for oil, so that's just going to be our option, I guess, when things happen. Not quite what I was expecting, but if this is the price to pay to have the Ottoman Empire on our side in the Reichspakt against Russia, then that so be it. Well, that slight disappointment away. Founding conference of the National Unity Front. Ever since Kurt von Schleicher's rise to power, his followers, both in government and across the nation, have called for him to turn his movement of national revival into an official organization, one which can aid him in his vision and provide him a base of support against the numerous opponents. For the longest time, Schleicher was not recipient to such calls. Such a move would only make German politics more divisive, as he explained back in 1936. Times change, however, and the Reichskanzler has given his informal approval for the formation of a movement standing behind the Reichskanzler, the German National Unity Front, or Deutsche Einheitsfront, most likely. Reichstag members of the Schleicher Bloc, civil society groups, and circles such as the League for the Reorganization of the Reich, Bund zur Erneuerung des Reiches, or the Lutherbund, after Martin Luther presumably, and numerous independents and right-wing politicians finding opportunity in alignment with the Reichskanzler are expected to appear in the party's founding conference in Berlin, the beating heart of the empire. Schleicher himself, emphasizing his independent, all-unifying position, is not expected to become a member of the party, but will be a key speaker, and his position will shape the direction his following will take. Foreign observers watch with concern, witnessing hints and makings of a populist right-wing movement that already took Russia and Romania by storm, more conservative and moderate perhaps, but still a concerning development in German politics. The Red Generals following will finally receive form. See, this is the culmination of the dance with the devil and see what happens. More modern terms, F around and find out. Von Schleicher always wanted to unify the empire and make an end to the internal divisions and squabblings, because that sort of thing was caused the whole problem in the first place, with German East Asia doing its own thing and causing the Black Monday crisis, with left and right tearing the country apart for their own benefit rather than fixing the economy. He was trying to save the empire, and he was ready to work with everyone. The problem is, obviously, in German say, if you do woodworking, there will be sawdust, more or less. So he has aligned himself with people on the more nationalistic front, simply because the left wouldn't join, and that has ended up sort of getting a life of his own. So now we have still the empire under Kaiser Wilhelm, but we have now the Deutsch-Nationale Einheitsfront as the party behind von Schleicher, and that is probably going to get more and more power over the empire. And there is unification, and there is sort of smoothing out of differences, but Can we put the demons back in the box? Is going to be the interesting question. All right. What can we do still? Consolidate Northern Front. We don't want to extinguish the. Okay, so this would be some aggressive decisions over here. Don't necessarily want to do those. We're probably going to go. Given that we're now on a roll here with the National Unity Front, we're going to go with conscription law costs. That is good. We can do that. We can do Wehrsportorganisation, renewed German militarism, and mandatory union membership. That's also nice. 100 political power, and we could. It sounds like something that might be doing away with the whole left squabbling. But are there any important army focuses that we can, or armed forces focuses that we can take, especially around the navy? We can still do this. That'll still give us four dockyards. Yeah, let's get that out of the way. And the earlier we have them, the better. Because I don't think I'm not building dockyards anymore. We have enough dockyards, but getting 4 free dockyards and not consuming any space is a good thing as well. All right. So after the unfortunate political price of losing Azerbaijan, access to Azerbaijan's resources, we have gained, I would say, a significant position, and I'm still not seeing anything. For fixing the Suez Canal. No. All right then. That's what we'll work with. Let's get back to it once something interesting happens, or once we have troops along the lines here, and we can try to weaken the communists in India a bit before actual war breaks out. Accident above Svecha. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but the entire series of events started when a Belarusian farmer informed the police of the wreck of an aircraft that had fallen to his fields in a small village of Svecha. I pronounce it like that for now. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. Some 60 kilometers west from Vitebsk. When the police arrived to the scene, it was initially thought to be a civilian accident, turned out to be a Russian scout plane. The plane was largely burned and its camera was removed. There was no sight of the pilot, though a manhunt was started in the entire district of Blezhankovki, hopefully. What was left of the plane was quickly delivered to the Borovka air base for further examination. Despite the pilot's attempts to destroy the machine, aviation engineers managed to identify the plane as a little-known Kamov gyroplane, a helicopter basically, primarily equipped for aerial photographing. It seemed probable that it had been photographing the important bridge of Svecha, which lies on the route from Vitebsk to Minsk. So Vitebsk's north here, Minsk's over here, so we're talking about this sort of border region here somewhere. Probably here, because they're talking about the bridge. Where was I? Evidence of this level of Russian war planning against Germany's eastern allies is alarming, and on an entirely new level, as many have believed that Russia would not dare to try their luck with Germany once again. Germany has promised to deploy additional air cadres to Belarus, and the military readiness of the eastern allies has been increased. 6 world tension. Sheesh. Has that already been factored in? Yes, that has been factored in. 65 world tension. Okay, so we do need to send some air force to Belarus. Yeah, let's bring the second Luftflotte. We don't have enough airbase capacity over here, honestly. We might have to build up the air bases a little bit. Let's build up the Minsk airbase. I'll just prioritize that. So we can send the Luftflotte over to the region, and I'm not entirely sure which one of these 3 it's going to be. So let's bring. How many do we have? We have 2 for 5 wings. So 5 wings we can fit. we can fit there. So let's bring them over. And we already, I mean, we are flying scout planes over Russia as well. So it's not that they're the only ones, but we'll bring them over. And yes, as you can see, our fuel consumption is obviously significantly higher when we are actually using anything. So once war breaks out, we will have to sort out the trade scenario. Troops here are still defending. Troops are moving into place here. The princely army has managed to cross the river, so we will try to exploit that. Moving forward. Oh, there we go. Suez Canal. All nations who have accepted the Port Said Convention receive access to reparation effort decisions, contribute to a shared timer. Okay, so we can spend political power to speed up the Suez Canal reparation. Currently, it's going to take 2 years. So if we spend 50 political power, we get 50 days off that. I'm not going to do that just now because political power is something I don't have an awful lot of. So I will save that. But so I'll disable this for now, just so they don't pop up in my list here. All right, troops moving in, and I think we'll immediately start an assault in the north. The nature of the front. The concept of partisanship itself is controversial in the German right, as the partisan conflicts within the Reichstag and the public at large are seen as a cause of the empire's decline. And rightfully so, you have to give it to them. That is literally what has happened. A political party could never truly represent the entirety of Germany, all of its different social, political and ethnic groups, as it must necessarily attach itself to a specific ideology and worldview. An alternate solution for the Reichskanzler and his followers would be to establish not a party, but a movement. Just make sure that when you're getting the shirts for everybody, that they're not brown, okay? One which transcends party lines and focuses on organic work rather than petty politicking. So, good intentions, once more. The Fatherland Party was one such movement before its reorganization into a party, allowing members from different political parties to participate and work together, and numerous interest leagues, such as the Agrarian League and the Navy League, are also successful examples. Perhaps the old political parties of Germany can remain, but simply decay into irrelevance as the entire nation, from the left to right, join in support of the Reichskanzler. Or perhaps the organizational efficiency of a political party with a strict membership and ideology will be more helpful to Schleicher's goals. So we can now decide, and I thought we're talking about front lines here. No, we're talking about the Deutsch-Nationale Einheitsfront, the German National Unity Front. So we can now decide that it is a political party, and that we are going to stay within the old parliamentary system. Or we can say it is not a party, but it's a movement, and everybody can join, everybody is welcome, no matter your political ideology, and basically say, look, the old parliamentarian system has failed us. Let's stop having interest groups representing people and then bickering for their own good and for their own benefits and their own goals, and rather have a more direct, more unified approach. So this is a really interesting question now, because that'll effectively, and one thing everybody says, we're going behind, we're following the Reichskanzler. Well, we're technically still following the emperor, right, who is the head of state at this point, but he becomes more and more ceremonial. And the Reichskanzler and his movement behind him, this is again the obvious path is to say, the obvious path would be to say, no, we're a movement, we are going to take over the country. And we're doing away with the old, it's a revolution. This is basically a revolution. We are dismantling the old democratic system, which to all intents and purposes right now is already sort of dismantled, although we are going to have elections in April 1941. And then potentially the people could decide that von Schleicher's party is not what they want. But In times of war, and that is the interesting part here. Do we want that risk? Do we want that risk that the French are attacking, and also French subversion might be influencing people on the left? We might be in a position where they could try to play the various animosities against each other, or are we saying no? The German people stand as one. No more federalism, no more party politicking, and no more division between left and right. And that is sort of, I think, what von Schleicher wanted. I'm not sure if he would necessarily be agreeing with sweeping away the whole system, but I think a revolution is what we are going to go with here, and we are going to. It's a movement for every patriotic German. We're going to unite the people behind the emperor as one, rather than having the federalist quagmire that's been proven so ineffective. And because we are facing a new type of war, and we have the world against us at this point. So, nope, it's a movement, and everyone can join. Everyone is welcome. I'm sure nothing bad will happen. The Ottoman Empire is calling us in against the Emirate of Cyrenaica and Tripolitania. So they are still fighting in North Africa, and they're basically asking us to assist to push all the way to Tripoli and do away with the remaining North African states here that have joined Egypt previously. And I think this is not a volunteers. This is not a call for volunteers. This is a call from our new allies, the Ottomans, to assist us in finishing off this war here. And I think we will accept that, and we will be able to send troops. And that means we will be officially declaring war, which is going to increase the world tension. But as I said, we are as ready as we can be, so we are accepting that. We can spend political power to get a special forces doctrine, I assume. Okay, interesting. Again, not doing it right now, but let's keep that in mind, that that's something we can do. And we are now at war, officially. The Reichspakt is at war with the North African states here. So we will. What is the situation here? There is no supply, absolutely no supply. So we're definitely not sending any tanks to North Africa. Sorry, but we can send. We probably have still some cavalry divisions. So let's send some cavalry divisions from the Second Army under von Kluge. And we'll probably von Kluge is actually an armor officer, so maybe we'll detach these together with no tanks, no supply, or maybe no tanks. We'll detach these. And we will send, this will constitute the 10th Army. We will assign, we're sure we have a cavalry officer somewhere. Yep, Eberhard von Mackensen takes over the cavalry. And these should be relatively well suited for this sort of combat in North Africa. So your task will be to assist the Ottomans in taking Tripoli. And we are let's give them an army group. So that is Heeresgruppe Afrika, because we're going to need more of that. So we may as well start. And we have von Blomberg available, so he can run as a field marshal. All right. And this has not significantly increased world tension, interestingly enough. So we'll get the troops shipped over. That's going to take a while, and they're probably going to be they're going to go across the Black Sea and then ship in here. So we'll divert some troops for the Turkish war effort, and everybody else can join as well. yeah, this obviously has had the effect that we no longer have volunteers operating in India, because the volunteers from India will be returning. I'm not exactly, yeah, they shouldn't be there yet. So why am I having this one division here under von Manstein? Oh, this was the northern group that we're building. Yeah, the volunteers from India will be returning because we're now officially at war, and that's fine. This was really just, we don't need to have German troops sacrificing their lives in India anymore. We have an actual war to fight to secure the southern Mediterranean coast here, and you never know, these people might join the syndicalists. So Germany is now officially at war, not actually engaged in just minor combat, but officially at war. And we apparently have additional air wings that we can create. Let's see if there's anything. We're starting to see the first Do-19s and Focke-Wulf Condors coming out here, but there's too few still to actually create air wings out of them. All right, we'll see. I'll get back when something interesting happens. This is an excellent opportunity to get the population used to the fact that the empire will be at war, because with the official declaration of war against the North African states and joining our Ottoman partners, obviously the effects in the population are visible, which means there is some resentment, some fear about stability, and the support in general for war is lower than otherwise. And this is a good thing, because it allows us to start working on getting the population used to this, rather than everybody panicking because suddenly the French are invading. Meanwhile, in Berlin, political parties in the German Empire are mass parties, surrounded by civil society organizations which provide practical benefits to party members and develop disparate members into communities. The reach of any individual party is limited due to natural processes, however. Now entrenched in power, the front can make that's the Deutsch-Nationale Einheitsfront, can make a step further and develop itself into a mass movement that will make itself permanent totally in daily life. Youth organizations, women's groups, veteran groups, and affiliates in different sectors of society, such as agriculture, sports, the arts, and businesses, all would help orchestrate the creation of a loyal, dutiful German nation where discipline and patriotic allegiance prevails. Of course, this would also mean that participation in the front is a sign of political loyalty and thus permission to advance in public career. Yep, there is a carrot as well. This would make Schleicher's regime veer closer towards the total control pursued by national populists in Russia or Romania, in which the party and state have become effectively one and the same. In addition, such massification of partisanship would not appease everyone. Politicians and aristocrats in Schleicher's circle see such moves as a dilution of politics into mere spectacle and lifeless speeches rather than organic work. So, do we want to become sort of a mass movement in the streets, like completely with secret handshake and certain signs that you make to show your loyalty to the leader, or in the end we're just a group of loyalists? We don't need a mass following. So I think in this regard we do have to be a little bit careful and not completely overwhelm the people. People generally want stability. People want tomorrow to be pretty much the same as today. So I think going for stability here is not a bad move. There's really no need for people on the streets to raise their hands in certain ways and do other things, because we all know how quickly that can devolve, and it's understandably that if we're compared to, say, Russia, that things are going to be a little uncomfortable for a lot of them. So let's not push it too far. Let's make sure that there's no need for mass movements and the likes. Given that the Ottomans are already fighting, we can probably send the Kampfschulgeschwader south and the 2nd Kampfgeschwader. Fly them to Alexandria and assist with the bombing campaigns there. So that should allow for some progress here from the Ottoman side, and maybe the cavalry isn't even needed. But even if once our cavalry arrives, we definitely are going to need the additional air power. It doesn't take too long to get over there, so in case of war with France, we can bring them back relatively quickly. And the first opening salvos of the war are going to be anyway to deal with enemy aerial superiority. Meanwhile, we have captured Elsa Petit, a French operatives. No surprise there, and we have definitely ways of making her talk. So that means we should have some better intelligence about the French going forward. But more decisions to be made in Berlin. Though he came to power through the democratic process and has spoken positively of the March Constitution and the German parliamentary system, the Reichskanzler has surrounded himself with men and women that have no love for parliamentarism, and it is no mystery that he himself prefers a stronger hand regime. Well, you make it sound like a bad thing. There's a good reason for that, because the parliamentary system has brought us into the trouble that we're in the first place. So something has to change. The parliamentarization of German governance has led to weak governments, led by men of no charisma and filled with sycophants, and all attention has been drawn towards the Reichstag instead, its battles and its scandals. Exactly my point. Professor Carl Schmitt, one of Schleicher's allies and a participant in the founding conference, is known throughout the empire as a critic of parliamentarism. His thesis of liberal democracy as a system detached from the nation, which fosters a new aristocracy and gradually enters decay, resonates with many in Schleicher's circle. If we include these theses as tenets of our party program, our solution to the decay of liberal democracy will be a government of decisive action, which wields power beyond the slow parliamentary process in order to address the true desires of the people and the German nation. So either we can include him, which gives us war support and popularity, or we can get some more stability out of it. I think war support is definitely something we're going to need, and he's not wrong. See, the problem with democracy or parliamentary systems is not that you get to get somebody in power. It's there to make sure that they have an automatic expiry date and you get them out again. But this is not something we're looking at right now. We're looking at a external pressure of existential scale, and under these auspices, to make sure that everyone's aligned rather than squabbling for their own needs and positions is not a bad thing. The problem comes later. when after you've been successful, how do you get and people start doing bad stuff because they now have all the power? How do you get rid of them again? And the whole point of the parliamentary system and representative democracy and elections is to make sure that you don't have to, basically to automate the process, to make sure that you don't have to take arms every time and shoot people in the streets to get rid of dictators. But I think in line with what we're currently doing, I think we will definitely include his critique of parliamentarism, because something has to change, because the way it's been implemented hasn't been good either. So it's not that we come from a brilliant background and we're now trying to overthrow everything and create a right-wing dictatorship. No, we're coming from a set of very serious economic and political problems. I don't know if that sounds familiar. Anyway, we'll include him. 5% war support, I'll take it. All right, back to the aircraft. We are still in the transfer to Alexandria, and once the Heinkels have arrived, they can. There we are. 2 tactical bomber wings arrived. They can assist with which air zone is this? This is still. We're currently fighting over the Egyptian air zone, so that's perfect. Let's get both Yep, both on the Egyptian side. We've got green air, and they will now the Turkish troops now actually have air support, and Tripolitania has declared war on the Middle Africa Colonial Federation. Okay. And it looks like Italy has been successful. So Switzerland has capitulated. Uncertain times. Total to surrender to the Italian Federation. Okay. But Switzerland... Okay, so Switzerland has been integrated into the United States of Greater Austria. Okay. That sounds better than what we had previously. All right, Heinkel's in the air, and very, very much a hopefully quick end to the troops there. Now that that's been sorted, we need to redirect to the Tripolitanian air zone, which unfortunately is okay. Apparently, we can't. We have range to at least part of the air zone. Okay. Well, in that way, then we'll leave them stationed there for now. Maybe that'll change. I'm not entirely certain why we don't have access to any of these air zones. But well, yeah, that's really weird. No idea. Anyway, we are maybe if I move them to Greece is not part of the. It's not part of this, but this is definitely the enemy, right? Yes, should be. Not entirely certain why we cannot move to any of these. Why we can't move to any to this air zone. We could try from the airbase in the north here. Let's see if that works better. So let's get the Heinkels moved over there. The range should be about the same-ish, and see if we can get. Okay, now it works. Yeah, no idea why. It's still not great. It's not great range, but we'll get them on close air support over the air zone, and there should be at least a little bit of aerial support. And we've got some volunteers back. Yes, good. So our volunteer groups are back. Perfect. So let's distribute them. Among the armed forces. We've got some assault divisions, and I think that's mostly the Third Army under Paulus, which is stationed in. Okay, perfect. That's actually good. So let's get the assault divisions back to Paulus, and that one, the 18th, as well. And we've got 4 infantry divisions. They can move to the. Who do we have? Who do we have in the east? I think we had a. If we look at European theater, we have the. This is the 8th Army. No, 8th Army is north. Here we've got the 9th Army under von Manstein. So the 4 infantry divisions can join von Manstein's 9th Army. And with that, I think we can actually take the von Kluge's 2nd Army back from the front lines, because we should have the where do we have the 3rd Army stationed right now? We no longer need to deal with Switzerland, so we can remove that. And the 3rd Army is currently stationed. The 3rd Army can take over the front. So let me change that. The 3rd Army is going to take over the front line. That's the. Okay, let me delete that. Yeah, 3rd Army is going to take over the front line here. And that means I can, in a second, let me get to that first. I can get the 2nd Army as a mobile reserve to counterattack, which is something I much prefer than having them directly committed to the front line. So I'm going to get them stationed slightly behind the line here, and we're going to make sure that they are they're ready for counterattacking into potential breaches in the lines here. All right, that's done, and back to Berlin, where we are talking about the economic policy. Ever since the Weltkrieg, where he criticized war profiteering as an officer bureaucrat in the Kriegsamt, Schleicher has held the reputation of an economically progressive politician. Among the alliances he tactically developed during the post-war period are several trade unions, and key trade unionists such as Lothar Erdmann and Theodor Leiphardt are in the circle, endorsing the formation of a national state-controlled trade union federation to mediate conflicts between business and labor. The Reichskanzler has also not shied away from endorsements of economic autarky and military-focused developmentalism, which, with the efforts of the state, he believes a stronger, self-reliant economy can be built to serve the Imperial German Army. I think that is pretty much what we've done, because we have a fair amount of civilian economy here going to build up definitely more military power. Economic policy is a major point of contention in the debates on the party program on the front. As while the left wing of Schleicher's movement hopes he continues with his reputation as a Red General, the conservatives and business leaders he has earned the trust of wish for him to cease with the heartless populism. They would much rather prefer a stronger stance on syndicalism, the root of all evil in the modern day. So we've got three choices. We can try to go for the harmony, which gives us a bit political power and a bit of population for social democracy. We could get national defense and a tax on syndicalism, which gives us war support, or we could remain vague, which gives us stability. Now, I think this is one of the areas where there's definitely pulls here. So we've got the more right-wing business-oriented people, and we've got the more left-wing union-oriented people, and we actually have a national focus. All right, found it. The mandatory union membership. So I think unions are needed. It's not that we can completely, we can't regress to a brutal dictatorship where everybody is basically just serving the state, because we're not trying to build that kind of empire. So I think we're going to remain vague, get a bit of stability out of it, and yes, syndicalism is a problem, and national defense is also important. Either of these, but I think if we are coming in too strong, we might actually play in the hands of trade unions to stop joining us. So we're going to remain vague here and say, no, people, we're going to remain. There are different opinions within the movement. We are going to work together, but we're not going to force either side to completely abandon their ideals. Done. All right. What else we got? We have Siemens-Schuckert, which we are using for what? I honestly keep forgetting that because there are so many lines. Siemens-Schuckert is for the Bf-110s and for the scout planes. Okay, so heavy fighters. All right, and so we are medium aircraft. So we can get for medium airframes. That'll get production efficiency. Nice. So let's do that. And I don't think that even needs to update the design, so that's done. Right. So the second army is moving towards their rear positions. We are assisting the Ottomans. Heinkel's assisting the Ottomans across the Mediterranean. We probably don't have the greatest mission efficiency over here. No, it's terrifyingly bad. But we are, and field hospitals done. But we are helping at least a little. And if they can take an airport somewhere, then we can bring in more close range support. And we have another armored division for the second army. And we have Opel being completed, which we are using for trucks and motorized and things, and mechanized. And I think, what have we taken? Yeah, we've gone on the mechanized route. So in preparation for mechanized units, mechanized I think is going to be helpful, or is going to come in relatively soon. So 5% hardness on mechanized, yeah, I'll take it. Because we have a research slot, and we can now, I believe, we still need better field hospitals. I'm going to start adding field hospitals to the more valuable divisions eventually. we have some catching up to do, but we can also research the Sonderkraftfahrzeug 11, our first half truck. So I think that is a research that we want to do with Opel, and that we get that going. And fuel reserves are depleting slowly, obviously, because we no longer have access to Azerbaijan. But cavalry troops are now shipping into northern Turkey, and they're going to railroad from there towards the front lines. Meanwhile, the Heinkels are supporting our Turkish allies here in their efforts. And another Blom und Voss. Blom und Voss is for screens. That was for escort, I think. Let me just double check. I think Blom und Voss was just for the escorts. Yeah, Blom und Voss. So we have the submarine hunters. Yeah, that's the fleet escorts cycle here. So approved mine equipment done. We'll get that eventually once we get that eventually in. Once we have, I just don't want to send everybody through another refit. Now that we're trying to finish the refits here. And the cavalry divisions are about to make landfall, and then they're going to be on the trains. Decimetric radar is done, which means from here on out, we can still go further. We can start atomic research as well at some point. How is our industrial situation? Don't need excavation techs just yet. How are we currently distributed here? We've got one naval. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we need to do. So let's focus a little bit on the army on the ground, because we have some necessary research here for the infantry, which is still the backbone of our army. So 5% soft attack or 5% defense. I think soft attack might not be bad. Yeah, 5% soft attack. Let's get that. The Maschinenpistole MP40, the famous German submachine gun is going to be done. All right. Next up in Berlin. Defense of cultural values. All right. Culturally conservative Schleicher has made comments on the past years that many of Germany's economic and cultural problems have risen because of the loss of their connection to the soil and nation. Yeah, he's not wrong there. We had the Eastern, we've dealt with the Prussian, the Junkers in the East and other things, and has responded positively to proposed restrictions on free speech to halt the defamation of the state and corruption of the arts. It is a view he shares with much of the German right, and emphasizing these views could grant the Reichskanzler powerful allies. The so-called national revolutionaries of the DVLP, united around Ulrich von Hassel, rebuild their party on populist conservative grounds with a heavy dose of Christian rural culture and Sammlungspolitik, right-wing unity politics. Sammlung is more like a collection. So collective collection politics, which doesn't sound particularly, almost sounds like collectivist, but it's more like collect everything into one thing that you need. Not only that, but their ideal Germany is one led by an imperialist, charismatic strongman who can transcend toxic parliamentarism and guide the empire as a sole capable ruler. Schleicher's persona, though rather too pragmatic and progressive for their taste, could attract at least some among the ranks of the DVLP. This would entail specific articles on protecting traditional values in the Front's program, as well as even stronger emphasis on anti-socialism and anti-parliamentarism. So we could go for Christian rural culture, or we could remain vague for more stability. I think that is too much of an extremist position here, the whole blood and soil idea. Not something we're necessarily going to entertain, and as such, we are the party of, we are a movement, and that movement needs to be inclusive of everyone, which means we are going to remain vague on culture, politics, and religion. All right, back to the front lines. Okay, we've got the volunteers back from the South India expedition, and they can join the 9th Army as well under von Manstein, and that means we will have. That means if we're looking where they're stationed, we are actually. We might actually position them. Let's see. Let's give the 9th a line a little bit more in the rear. We'll position at Riga for now, but they can potentially fall back towards the Königsberg line here, where we may actually just build a couple of. Okay, this is awkward. So here, a couple of fortifications just behind the river estuary here, to make sure that we are holding. In a case of catastrophic Russian breakthroughs, we have a bit of a fallback line. So nothing massive, but just something to help us fall back if necessary a little bit. Right. So von Manstein's 9th Army is slowly coming together, and they're going to start taking over the northern flank here at some point, such that we can reduce the burden on von Leeb's 4th Army. Mittelafrika is starting to send rifles our way to assist with creation of the Eastern armies, which is great. We'll take that. And Poland as well is going to start supplying rifles because everybody is increasingly wary of Russian aggression. So we'll make sure that all happens. The cavalry divisions under von Mackensen are on the train towards the front lines, and Turkish troops are making headway here, and with some support from the Heinkels, which are operating at the edge of their range, they should hopefully be able to break through and push them. Meanwhile, in Berlin, centralization of the state. One of Schleicher's key goals is to further and complete the centralization of the German Empire at the expense of its member states, thus completing the vision. Now, if you've seen what the Bavarians have kicked off, you'd know why. Completing the vision of Otto von Bismarck. Because Germany traditionally came out of a large fraction of smaller states, and that sort of is more a loose federation of things. Though some moves in the centralized direction, granting additional powers and authorities to the regime in Berlin and wielding soft power to curtail the unruly southern states can be accomplished relatively quickly, the constitutional balance of powers between the empire and its states is much harder to alter. The Reichskanzler places his hopes in the Second Weltkrieg, however. Should he lead the empire to victory against the syndicalists, the post-war fervor will surely grant him the political capital to amend or even rewrite the imperial constitution to his liking. Rumors of the so-called Schleicher constitution are already scattered throughout the newspapers, thanks to comments slipped by government authorities on the necessity to enact constitutional reform, but the foundation of the front gives an opportunity to make this desire official. Such a decision would greatly alarm the states, but help unite the centralist elements of German politics around our banner. So we could. So von Schleicher does not like the federal state system because, again, of all the troubles it's caused us. However, going public with that right now is going to cost us 5% stability because it is going to cause a lot of alarm. So remaining vague here, I think, is the better option. This is not something we're going to go public with just now. This is something we're going to take on coming out as a victor who have successfully defended the empire against the world and brought the emperor to new glory. So that's when we're breaking that sort of thing out. We're not going to announce that beforehand and get everybody excited about it. So we're going to remain vague on that. And where are my troops? Still not in Egypt, but making their way there eventually. Meanwhile, the Turks are making good progress by themselves and are almost at the Cyrenaica capital. From there out, it's just a matter of marching up to Tripoli and cleaning up the North African front completely. Morocco, as a North African state surrounded by the Entente, is asking for assistance with military development. Morocco is part of the Reichspact, and as such, it is quite crucial in the potential scenario of another conflict against the Entente that we are helping to develop their army. So let's send 2,000 men over to aid their development and hopefully make them a little bit stronger. Our cavalry divisions are almost in position, but I think at this point the Turkish troops and whatever other volunteers actually arriving are going to be probably almost enough. We just really want to make a show here that the empire has the back of its allies. Now this is going to be fun. Oh dear. Position on the Jewish population. You see where that one's going. Political anti-Semitism has been present in German politics for many decades, and time, the Bolshevik and syndicalist revolutionaries and the Black Monday crisis have only seen it grow. Among the grassroots rural agrarian right and the slowly growing and strengthening middle class in the cities, xenophobic positions see widespread action. And from calls to curtail Jewish businesses, land speculation, immigration, and perceived influence in newspapers, to extreme positions such as expulsions to Palestine. Wow. So that's an extreme position, yeah? Okay. Of the major political parties, only the DVP explicitly has anti-Semitic politics in their program, but other right-wing parties have to accept prevalence of anti-Semitic positions among their membership. Schleicher is personally not anti-Semitic and has described anti-Semitism as the greatest folly in an interview before his chancellorship, and his overarching idea of a united German society may include the German Jews as well. But his party will inevitably have to address anti-Semitism somehow, or else risk losing a portion of their support base on the radical right. So we can either just kind of keep it underhanded and saying, yes, we sort of agree with you that we don't like the Jews, but we're not going to say it publicly. Or we can explicitly, or we can go and explicitly state that nope, if you're Jewish, you don't belong here, and that is definitely not something that we want to do. So no, von Schleicher certainly is not anti-Semitic, and honestly, this is not a good basis for an empire. This is really a scourge. This form of racism is a scourge that needs to be extinguished anyway, and it's not a good basis for an empire to have. So no, we are, while we might agree, while some of us might agree with you, that is most certainly not going to be the official position. This is, after all, the German Unity Front, and not the mostly German Unity Front, or German Unity Front for everyone who isn't these people over there. So that's that, and nice little play there with sending them over to Palestine, which is currently under Ottoman occupation anyway. So that's a completely different story altogether. This could set up long-running conflicts for decades to come if we do that sort of thing. So no, we'll have to make sure that our Jewish brothers and sisters are welcome as well, and as much as possible work to a better future there. And I do need to shorten that front line a little bit, because I don't need 4 cavalry divisions all the way along there. We are probably going to focus north and try to push towards the port. How are the supply lines looking here? Very much at the edge of it, because we are only getting supply from Alexandria. Meanwhile, in Greece, the monarchy has been restored in Greece. The Greek government today announced it would be restoring the monarchy, foregoing the referendum that originally restored the kingdom in 1920 prior to its overthrow in 1923. Rather than restore the crown to Alexandros I, however, it has instead passed the crown to his younger brother, Pavlos I. The new king, it is said, has much more radical and authoritarian ideas learned during his exile, which are more in line with the new Greek government, though the rest of the royal family will be returning to Greece along with him. The king spoke to a massive cheering crowd in Athens after returning for the first time in many years, saying that Greece had finally returned to the path it was meant to be on and vowed to work tirelessly to rebuild the country. I'm sure nothing will go wrong there. And next item in Berlin is the front and the monarchy. No mainstream political party in the German Empire calls for the abolition of the monarchy. No, we are an empire after all. Long live the Kaiser. While the approval of the current Kaiser can certainly vary and is not very positive even among the right, the monarchy as an institution is viewed as a symbol of Germany as a whole, and its replacement with an elected presidency is either extreme radicalism or a vague distant change that is nothing to die for. The front is expected to fit itself into this window as well. The question lies, however, on how much this monarchism should be emphasized in the program. Explicit monarchism and extoliations towards the Kaiser would strengthen the trust of those conservatives who are suspicious of Schleicher's intentions, but would weaken the Reichskanzler standing among the liberal and social democratic wings of German politics, to whom the monarchy would best serve as a figurehead that every party could safely ignore. And we are definitely standing behind the Kaiser. And that, I believe, is something that we will make official. We are first and foremost a monarchist party, and long live the Kaiser. The conference has completed. All of the important questions regarding the direction and ideology of the National Unity Front have been settled, and as expected, the majority of the attendees declared their full allegiance with the tenets of the program. After it was approved by a majority vote in the convention, a series of speeches followed. Among the most well-received speakers were Hans Luther, Lothar Erdmann, Otto Gessler, Siegfried von Kardorff, and Paul Reusch, all of whom were also included into the Central Committee of the newly established party. Finally, the Reichskanzler himself spoke a few words before the delegates, commending them on the duty of the renewal of the empire they have chosen to place on their shoulders, and stating that the delegates gathered today are certainly up to the task, and I hope to achieve productive work with them. Schleicher himself remains independent, so the chairmanship of the front falls to Hans Luther, the former mayor of Essen and Secretary of Finance. However, he is expected to be merely a first among equals in the Central Committee and a figurehead. After a final collective singing of Heil dir im Siegerkranz, the National Unity Front was proudly, that's the national anthem, proudly proclaimed to be founded. Followers of the second Bismarck. So, we are now officially the Deutsche Nationale Einheitsfront. And as such, on the path, I think, towards a strong, unified, but sort of inclusive empire under the Kaiser. And that, I think, is the best I could align that with von Schleicher's vision. Now, Germany is at war, at least a little bit in Africa, and it is only a matter of time until things get really, really dicey in France. And I have the 7th Army under Wilhelm List, who I am not entirely certain what to do with at this point. We'll probably just we'll keep him as a security force in case of any kind of. We'll keep them around Munich for now. So we're going to get the whole 7th, please. We're going to keep the 7th around Munich for now. It's not a strong force. We will build it up eventually, but for now we'll keep them around Munich just in case there's anything weird happening here with the Austrian, Italian, Swiss shenanigans in the south. We can also send them north to Denmark if needed, but that's where they are for now. And I think this has been a long episode of just political things happening and not very much action, so apologies for that. But sometimes stories just go that way, and hopefully in the next episode we will see some more action, because I think at this point, we're pretty much ready for war with the French, and we'll just have to pay the Azerbaijanis for their oil, which is fair. We'll do that. It'll go into our trade balance, so I think it is a fair measure. And that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.